daughter is at Vanderbilt Hospital. She's a year old. She was born with something wrong with her brain, and they have to do surgery. She went through the surgery well. Now she's fighting 106 fever. She can't get it down. They're asking for a miracle.
Amen. Let's remember that request tonight. Anybody else? Go ahead, Francis. Amen. Amen. Go ahead, brother.
My best friend's wife, she's going to biopsy tomorrow. Her thyroid. Really said she's anxious about that.
Just remember that. Anybody else?
They're still in his body. I told him today, the blood pressure that had gotten under control. His test had come back here. She said he did have a stroke. We just don't know how bad it is yet. He does his MRI next week. And she wants to find out why his kidneys are not feeling right. But he did tell the doctor that he's going to bear his week. And he has him, so let's just pray.
Amen. Amen. Remember that. Any other requests?
I do. Still remember one, back in October, we had to take him to the ER. I thought he had a heart attack and his dimer was elevated, but indicated blood clot. We are going to go to see a hematologist to see what's going on. His dimer is still elevated. So, but they don't find a blood clot, so just pray it's just something simple.
Amen. Just remember that. Any others?
Randy, continue to pray for my cousin Susan Hooker. She's Sherry Disney's sister. You know, she's 67 years old and had a heart attack last week. And then while she was in there, they found out that she was full-blown diabetic and she had no idea. And she lives by herself, and Sherry's been down there a lot to help with her. But just pray also for not only physical, but just a state of mind. It kind of hit her hard that here she's had a heart attack and diabetic, and she's 67 years old. So pray for Susan.
Amen. Amen. Somebody else? Stop right here. Amen. Just remember that. Amen. I was going to ask you guys what you're doing. Amen. Is there anybody else? I will make some go ahead.
Remember Chris and one.
Randy, this is your mom. Come on, man. This is again back Friday or the day.
Amen. Amen. Lots to pray about. I'm going to say let's pray for all these on our list because there's so many names, and I don't want to miss anybody.
go for your honor, for your glory, God, we leave it all in your hands, we leave it all in your care right now.
Amen. So, several announcements here, and some of these may be on the board, or have been on the board, but don't forget the directions for the ladies' retreat. These are out there, so if you need one of those, don't forget the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, the shirts for Garrett, and $15, and that goes directly to help that. And there's a sign-up sheet below, so don't forget that. Sunday, March 11th, the Deacons meeting at 4:30. March 12th, on Monday, the men's meeting at 7. Do the Finger Foods, the fellowship business with no speaker this month. The ladies will be sharing on March 25th from the retreat. The Lord's Supper, we're going to change that date of the Lord's Supper to March 18th. That's at 6 o'clock service. Deacons will be at 5 to set up. And then the seniors, Western System lunch, rescheduled for April 7th. So we'll get the time here, place set for that later. And then don't forget those going on the Emmaus Walk, Tina Smith, Casey Kirk, Todd Hudgens, Arnold Truelove, and Ron Moore is going.
Yes.
So we went all around the world. He's going. So that is coming up, so don't forget that. The Easter egg hunt coming up. I want to just mention that Saturday, March 31st at 2 o'clock here at the church.
Freddie, Zach is going too. Zach Crosby.
I'm sorry. Yell his name out again.
Zach, does he go by Zachary or Zach?
So Zach is going too. So don't forget that. The special kids singing, I don't know if I finished the last thing I said. I did in the Easter egg hunt, don't forget that. And we'll give you that Saturday, March 31st at 2 o'clock. We'll come back to that. The special kids gospel singing, music now, featuring Heartstring, Right Path, Kubitu, Quartet, April 21st, 2 o'clock, True Love. And this is for the special kids. And there is some flyers up front. Brother Tony.
Y'all stand with me to the book and go to page 181. Something that I was listening to as Shelley was praying, and I was praying too, don't worry about it. He just overheard my wife say, she's tired. She's tired. Listen, although she's tired, she also said that still, even though she's tired, your name is worthy to be praised. So let's just, I know we may be tired, but we all may be in the same mode. We've had a long Anybody tonight have a song or a word of testimony?
This song is on my heart, and I love the second verse of this song. It says, when the world is closing in and my life becomes a burden, Lord, I want to run, but there's no place to run. I just look, it's like I was Stephen, to the right hand of my Father, and He rose me up with time. There's been many times in my life I thought, Lord, I can't make this, I just can't do it. He's always rolled me over that time, and He's still rolling me over. Y'all pray for me. When I was deep, sorry, it's been a while so long. When Stephen was here,
God's little people.
You may wonder what the children do with skinned-up knees and tennis shoes. We may not look like we're worth a lot, but being loved by God's own Son makes us as big as anyone, 'cause we don't look big as we were not, and we're God's little people. We got a light and we're gonna let it shine, and we're God's little people. God's little people are God's big people sometimes. David was a kid with a sling in his hand. Old Goliath was a big, big man. He said, David, I'll kill you with my sword. But David brought him down to size with that rock between his eyes, 'cause he came in the name of the Lord. The kid was little, just like me, so he climbed up in a sycamore tree so he could see Jesus passing through. But David went down so fast to say, there's still no bark on that tree today. Jesus said, I'm coming home with you. Lord, I like to give my best to you, but there's a lot of things that I can't do. I know I'm not tall and I'm not strong, but for small people everywhere, we got something for the world to hear. Lord, I'd like to sing to you this song, and we're God's little people. We got a light and we're gonna let it shine, and we're God's little people. God's little people are God's big people sometimes. God's little people are God's big people sometimes. God's little people are God's big people sometimes.
get started in what we're going to do tonight, I just want to take a second. Casey is speaking over with the kids right now, doing the youth part, and I just want to lift him up. I just feel like we just need to lift him up right now. So let's all gather together right now where we're sitting. I don't have to make a move, but let's all just lift Casey up right now, okay? God, as we come to you right this moment, Lord, I feel Casey's so strong on my heart, dear Lord. God, we just want to come together and, Father, just to call out his name to you, dear Lord. God, I'm reminded of Charles Spurgeon, Father, that his congregation would go, and they would go down in the basement, God, while he was preaching. And Lord, they would stay there the whole time, God, not listening to him, but God, just praying the whole time, lifting him up, dear Lord, as he spoke, even upstairs to a different crowd. God, may we get that kind of desire, Father, for your word to be felt. God, for your word to be used through other people, dear God. Father, not for our glory, God, not for our own pleasure that we get to hear. But God, we would be willing, God, to take a second-class seat in a different room, God. Father, pray for the work that is being done in another place. God, thank you so much for what you're doing in this room, in this church. God, we give it all to you tonight, dear Lord. Thank you for your spirit. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. 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 I thank you for that. We're going to try this again. And Tony sent me a text earlier today and said, what are we doing? Are we going to try to do the study this week, or are you done feeling led to go another way? And I said, well, we'll try it again. I mean, you know, we tried it last week and God had a different way that he wanted to go, which it worked out fine, worked out good. I got it out at the end of the day and started looking at it, and it went from 1 page to 2. So this is going to get deep. This is one of them subjects that I know we'll just skip over the surface of it. But what we're talking about, if you got the text today, it's the same one that was sent out last week. And I want to talk to you about tempting God. What does that mean? Well, you know, what is the caution would be a good word for it, about tempting or testing God. We read a lot, and we'll get down at the very end if we have time. Not in a week or night. If we take 2 Wednesdays, it'll take 2 Wednesdays. But you know, what brought this up in my mind was the fleece. When Gideon throwed out his fleece, we will wind up at the end of it somewhere around a little later on in the night. We'll be over in Judges chapter 6. But for right now, I want to just tell you that there are 2 main definitions when we talk about tempting or testing God. Both of the meanings, the 2 main ones we're going to be looking at tonight, they both mean to test. They both mean to put to a specific test. But both of them also include a separate and an equally meaningful description that separates what they really mean. And we're going to be talking about the 2 main ones tonight. And I hope you've looked at these. I hope that you've looked at the scriptures, at least read that the text sent out of what we was going to be looking at tonight, and to let you already have a flavor at least where we're going to be going. But if you want to be turning over to Luke chapter 4:12, we're going to start there. But let me just tell you, if you got a pen and paper and want to write some notes down, the first definition that we're going to look at in our first 2 scriptures, which is going to be Luke 4:12, and the second one will be 1 Corinthians 10 and 9. Both of these use this first definition of the word tempt, and it's number 1598 in the Strong Concordance for the Greek word. And what it basically means, it means to prove or to test thoroughly. And then the second definition is the main one that we want to put together, because we know it's a test, right? We know it's to prove something. The second one really puts a little, whatever the word I'm trying to, exclamation point, whatever it is. It says to put to proof, write this down, to put to proof God's character and power. To put to proof God's character and power. That's what we're going to be looking at for the first two of these scriptures today before we go to the second one. So turn in your Bibles to Luke 4:12, and we're going to pick up probably in verse 9. And I like to read it in context. Just picking out one verse, I like to read a little bit before and sometimes a little bit after to kind of get the flavor, what's going on, make sure that you get the verse in context. So when you turn to this, you automatically see that we are jumping into the middle of the conversation when Satan is tempting Jesus. And so let's start reading at verse 9, and we will go all the way through to verse 12. It says, "And he brought him to Jerusalem, and set him on a pinnacle of the temple, and said unto him, If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down from hence. For it is written, He shall give his angels charge over thee to keep thee. And in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against the stone." And here it is in verse 12. "And Jesus answering said unto him, It is said, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God." You may be seated. We're going to be doing a lot of reading and a lot of different passages tonight. So keep your Bibles out and keep them handy. So when we look at this and you start looking through this, we know that Jesus was quoting Deuteronomy 6:16. So turn in your Bibles over to Deuteronomy. That's in the Old Testament. 6, and we're going to pick up on. Let's start 6. I know it's 16. Let's go up to about verse 13, and we'll see what was going on during this time. Why, out of all the passages, did Jesus pick this particular one? Starting at 13, and we'll go through about 16. It says, "Thou shalt fear the Lord thy God and serve him." And what it is, he is warning, Moses is warning the people against disobedience in this chapter. It says, "Thou shalt fear the Lord thy God and serve him, and shalt swear by his name. You shall not go after other gods of the gods of the people which are round about you. For the Lord thy God is a jealous God among you, lest the anger of the Lord thy God be kindled against thee, and destroy thee from off the face of the earth." Here it is. "Ye shall not tempt or test the Lord your God as ye tempted him in Massa." Now what? Now, we got another reference here. This is a real in-depth Bible study. So he's telling us here that we don't need to tempt God the way that the children of Israel tempted him in Massa. So now we're going back a little further and find out what happened at Massa. How did the people tempt God back in that day? What was the reference? What's the story going on with them? So let's go back a little further. Let's go now to Exodus chapter 17. Exodus 17. And we're going to find out what happened at Massa. And we're going to go make it to 7, but let's start at verse number 1. Let's start at verse number 1. Everybody there? "And all the congregation of the children of Israel journeyed from the wilderness of Sin," now that's a place, "after their journeys according to the commandment of the Lord, and pitched in Rephidim, and there was no water for the people to drink. Wherefore the people did chide or gripe or complain or murmur," what chide means, "with Moses, and said, Give us water that we may drink. And Moses said unto them, Why chide ye with me? Wherefore do you tempt the Lord?" That's a question. "And the people thirsted there for water, and the people murmured against Moses, and brought us up out of Egypt to kill us and our children and our cattle with thirst. And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, What shall I do unto this people? They be almost ready to stone me. And the Lord said unto Moses, Go on before the people, and take with thee of the elders of Israel and thy rod, wherewith thou smotest the river, take in thy hand and go. And behold, I will stand before thee there upon the rock in Horeb, and thou shalt smite the rock, and there shall come water out of it, that the people may drink. And Moses did so in the sight of the elders in Israel. Listen, and he called the name of the place Massah and Meribah, because the people chided, because of the chiding of the children of Israel, is because they, listen, tempted the Lord, saying, Is the Lord among us or not? So as we look at this, and we look at the definition, and them asking the question, is God with us or not? We can see that it is most definitely, it is a test to put God's proof, His character, and His power to the test. It is wondering, and is God really, truly with us, And as we look down on this other one, it goes right along with what it's saying. Now let's turn over to 1 Corinthians 10:9. And I'm moving pretty quick through this first because we're going to get more in depth here in just a minute. 1 Corinthians 10:9, and we'll open up for discussion after this. 1 Corinthians 10:9. You got to give me a little few minutes. I ain't got a thumb index. I got the old man's Bible. 1 Corinthians 10. Let's look 1 through 9. And verse 9 is where we're going to wind up. Okay. Moreover, brethren, I would not have you to be ignorant how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and that all passed through the sea, and were all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and did eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of the spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was who? Christ. But with many of them God was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Talking about everybody that did not believe. Okay? Now these things were our examples, to the intent we should not lust after evil things as they also lusted. Neither be you idolaters, as were some of them. And it's written, the people sat down to eat and to drink, and they rose up and played. You remember that? Neither let us commit fornication, as some of them committed, and fell in that day 23,000. Neither let us tempt Christ, as some of them also tempted, and were destroyed of serpents. Okay? Do you see that? And some were destroyed by serpents. So this whole passage, what we've read, was talking about the people's disobedience to what God had given them, the command, the instructions, what to do. You shall not have no false God before me. I'm a jealous God. And these people rose up and played. They made them a golden calf. You remember when Moses was up on the mountain getting the law, getting the 10 Commandments. The people made Aaron, you remember, make this golden calf. That's what it's referenced to. And so then it says in verse 9, neither let us tempt Christ or test Christ, as some of them also tempted and were destroyed by serpents. Okay? So if you have a reference Bible, you will automatically see this out beside of it, that it says Numbers 21. Did everybody see that in their Bible? So let's go to Numbers 21, and we're going to start reading at verse 4. We're going to find out what happened when they were destroyed with these serpents. A lot of you might have already known, but I'm going to point something out, and we're going to start discussing at least this first one here. Numbers 21, and let's start at verse 4 and get a little bit of flavor. And they journeyed from the Mount Hor by the way of the Red Sea to compass the land of Edom, and the souls of the people was much discouraged because of the way. You see that? First of all, they were discouraged because of the way. And the people spake against God and against Moses. Wherefore have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no bread. Sounds familiar, don't it? We're thirsty. We want water. Give us water. And Moses, remember, he hit the rock. Okay, same kind of deal. They're still chiding You know, they're still grumbling, they're still complaining. He said, why did you bring us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there's no bread, neither is there any water, and our soul loatheth this light bread. Okay? And the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and much of Israel died. Verse 7 says, therefore the people came to Moses and said, we have sinned, for we have spoken against the Lord and against thee. Pray unto the Lord that he take away the serpents from us. And Moses prayed for the people. So here we see the people that was grumbling. They was grumbling about the terrain, that the way was hard. They was grumbling about the manna that God fed them every day. This light bread, we hate it. We detest it. That's all we got. We want more. We're not satisfied with what's going on. They just grumbled and they complained about everything that was happening. They was complaining mainly about God's ability and His leadership qualities. We see that once again, that is to put the proof of God's character and His power. Is God able to lead effectively? And let me ask you something. We'll start the discussion question. It says, have you ever questioned God's character or power? Have you ever questioned God's power? And I'll just give you one to get started. God, if you're really with me, like we talked about, up here, is God really with us or not? Okay? Here's just an example of, if you've ever got to the point where there's something that's really happened to you, some kind of a hardship has fell upon you, and you just automatically come to the point and you say, God, if you're really with us, then why is this happening in my life right now? Has anybody ever said that? Okay? That's what it's talking about. You're questioning God's ability to lead. You're questioning whether or not He really has a clear understanding even about what He's doing. Okay? What's some other ways that you may have seen others or you yourself have questioned God's ability or His power? Any comment? Anybody?
Why me? Why me?
Why me?
Why me?
Why me? I always say that. Instead of saying why me, we should be saying why not me?
Why not me?
What makes me any different from anybody else? We all go a time, through the testing and through the fire. God, it's not that God tempts us with evil, but God tests His people. Amen? God puts our faith to the test. And it's not to break you, it's to increase your faith. It is to build your faith. It gives opportunity. I was thinking about this today, and I was sitting there watching TV. They had a commercial on, and I think it's a Publishers Clearinghouse, and it says, how would you like to win $7,000 a week for the rest of your life? Anybody seen this commercial? How would you like to win $7,000 a week for the rest of your life? Well, that would add up in a hurry. All right. So, okay, let's say that you are the lucky recipient, G. Okay, you get $7,000. How much trust are you going to put in God for your future? Not much. You're relying on Publishers Clearinghouse to meet that need that's in your life. It ain't God anymore that's leading you, that is guiding you. You're not even worried or concerned about His hand over you, because you feel like, hey, as long as the $7,000 is coming in, I can pretty much cover any medical bill, I can pretty much cover any finances, I'll have enough left over for my kids, my grandkids. There's no reliance on God. Okay? God wants to prove Himself faithful to His children. That's why when it comes to the hardship, God never told us we were going to have an easy road. Amen? He never promised that things was going to go well. But He did say, I'll take care of you. I'll take care of you. And there's times that we really wonder where God is during some of these hard times. You know, God, if you're really with him, it's back and criticize the children of the land. I mean, you take 40 years. 40 years. Their clothes never wore out. Their shoes never wore out. And everybody says, praise God. I mean, that's a blessing, that God sustained them. And it was. I mean, where are you going to find a tailor in the middle of the desert that's got enough fabric and enough leather to make you a different set of clothes? Where are you going to haul? Okay? So God made that provision for them. But Sam, what if you had to wear the same old stinky clothes and the same shoes for 40 years? Basically half your life. Where's our dependency? Where's our dependency on God today in 2018? Any more stories about anybody that's just indirectly or willingly questioning God? Anybody?
Persecution and martyrdom of saints and Christians.
Yeah, that's a good one. If you look what she's talking about, being willing to lay down your life, and not only for the cause of Christ, but for for a loved one, someone that you didn't even know, and then you look back and wonder, why does that have to happen? You take Steve, you take some of these other, my daddy, I ain't gonna lie, I was gonna bring this up. I question God. I ain't got no lie to tell. I question God on a lot of things. And here's one of my all-timers. Why did my daddy have to die? He died when I was a little boy. Good man. Everybody, I've never met nobody that has ever said anything bad about my dad. Okay? Nothing. I'm sure that he had some flaws, but everybody that I had ever met only had nice things to say about my dad. So I'm questioning in my heart for years and years, God, why did I have to grow up without my dad? And that, you think about that. That's God's power. That's God's will. That's in His sovereign will for our lives. And so, yes, there are times that we question God. And that's what we're studying about tonight. Is discovering what it really truly means to tempt or to test God. And the first one is basically to put to proof God's character and power. And, I narrowed it who God is. That's what it's all about. Who God is. Power, His character, everything about God. Anybody else want to this first one?
God allows, because Christ comes in your life, and then you're able to take unbelief out of you. Every time you come truly, like believe more, God more, makes you more trust God.
Exactly.
When you come over that situation, it's like you happy, you never know that God can expect you.
See, it's like it's the same way with the children of Israel. He's feeding them every day. He's feeding them every day. And you think what it's like, and probably 1.5 to a little less. They figure could be above, could be less. 2 million people traveling in the way. How long do you think that a day of one journey went? You think about this, okay? God fed on this manna, which was a little white wafer, and every morning it was covered the ground. That's all they had. They picked up enough just for that one day. Okay? If they tried to get more, what happened to it? It rotted. It spoiled. Okay? If you wanted more than what you was going to eat that day to put in your tent and eat later on in the evening, man, you get up and it's full of worms. Okay? What was God trying to teach that? For how long? One day at a time. You trust God, I'll feed you, I'll meet your needs, but I'll only do it one day at a time. He's still doing the same thing today. He's still getting us to trust and to understand that yes, He is God. He is sovereign above all. But all He's wanting to do is for you to trust Him one day at a time. Okay? The first part, the first one, is who God is. Anybody else got any more? Before we move on.
I know in the world, when we see something bad happen, many times we'll hear, how could a God of love allow something like this. And the world doesn't understand.
No.
They don't. They're looking at the bad thing. And for Christians, for myself, sometimes it's hard for me to understand.
That's true.
I don't understand. Like you didn't understand why your dad had to die at such a young age. But things happen, and one day we'll know. We'll know exactly. But until then, and when you're dealing with the world, people that don't know Jesus, about God of love that does love them, that they love for whatever reason. God loves them.
You hit on something, brother. All right, we're going to be studying next time. Why do, oh, not good. Why do bad things, God, happen, H-A-P people, to good people? Law and mercy. Well, we didn't get no bread. Yeah. 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 Immediately they got in the boat and they didn't get no bread. You know, immediately. Yeah. The same thing happened. Same thing happened. I've had that question asked me a number of times. And it's hard to give anybody that is hurting. And anytime, you hear this a lot when something tragic has happened. A school shooting, you know, or you know, something bad happens that really tears your heart out. Then that seems to be the question that hits the media, you know, that comes in within the church is why do bad things happen to good people? And you just can't answer that in just a short amount of time because we open up a lot of avenues, a lot of variables are coming into it, and you'll just have to go back next week. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. But that is an excellent point. That's an excellent point. It's easy to do. I mean, when you see the world crumbling and happening around you, and yet God is allowing this to happen. You know, God allows things to happen in our life. You know, that are we don't like it. We don't like it. Okay, and so has anybody else got anything? You've learned that God is faithful. And how did you learn that? Through past hardship. It wasn't the easy times in your life. You learned God will provide through the difficult times that you're in your life, through the sicknesses, through the through the financial hardships. You know, yeah, we might have to give some things up. We might have to sell up. You know, but yet, God is faithful. You know, and it's not that God's going to let me keep all my stuff. You know what I'm saying? We got to put some limits on it too. You know, but yeah, but God will show Himself faithful during those times. And the thing, something else that I can put down. People get mad at God because the life doesn't go to suit them. You know, it feels different. You know, I just don't agree with the way that God is leading me right now. You know, my life is not suiting me the way that God is leading. You know, they feel like He's not qualified to lead. You know.
Well, Mark, you say there's times that we feel that we had a better choice for how our life should have been. But all the circumstances that we end up in our life on a day-to-day basis and that we look at as men change who we are tomorrow. And how do we know what we're facing today is not changing us for the way that God wants to change our particular lives, like your father and I, may change who you ended up being. He knew who you were going to be. He knew where you're going to be. And He knew the lives that you were going to affect by putting you where you are, and saying what you're saying, when you're saying it. So He controls the entire outcome of your life by your father's death, maybe. Or by one incident that you ended up being in at a particular time, because everything we do changes who we are tomorrow. Everything we do.
Right.
So how we treat our fellow man on a day-to-day basis, on an individual instant, whatever's happening at that time, may change who we are tomorrow. Just a little bit of love that we give somebody may give us an entire amount of love at a time that we are down and we really need it.
Right.
We don't know this when it happens, so we have to give him trust and awe.
The things that you go through in your life helps you sympathize with somebody else's story.
Exactly.
And it helps you to be able to share your faith and your experiences. When you see somebody that's struggling, that's in a hardship that God is leading them through and allowing to happen in their life, and they get to the point where that they get, they're questioning God, you can go and say, hey, I've been right where you're at, brother. Let me tell you what, God will walk with you all the way through. You can share your experience too, and it's just like you said.
At a time when you really needed it, someone was there that you had no idea that they were going to show up.
Right.
He put them there.
Right.
For
Yep.
you.
Yep. Anybody else before we move to the second definition? That's good.
Mark, I think a lot of input, everybody discussed, goes back to the book of Job.
Yes. Yeah, that's good.
God knows how Job was, but he allowed Satan to do with Job the way he does, and then God was looking to see. He doesn't know,
Right.
but in a lot of this stuff that we go through, I don't think it's from the Lord, but he lets things happen to us to see how we will handle it. Look at it.
Right. Yeah. It's like Job's wife. Why don't you just curse God and die? Just throw in the towel, This is, enough's enough, And it says, through all of this, Job sinned not. He didn't understand why this come upon him, but yet he suffered through it willfully. And in all things kept his character, his dignity, and his faith in God. And not once did he ever get to the point to where that he blamed God for some unrighteousness that God was allowing him to go through for no good reason, And that's a good point, Paul.
Yeah, it wasn't God tempted him, it was the devil.
Yes.
But God just said, okay, you go there.
Right. Yep. Yep. Anybody else?
When you do something wrong, you know it's wrong, you do it anyway, and then you blame God. That's it. You don't make responsible for it.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. We know it's our fault, but it's either blame God or blame somebody else. Yeah. Yeah. What does the sign have on it? I seen it today, something about, the one that's on the sign. Yeah, something about blaming God or the world. How does it go? It's what?
Worried about offending everybody but
Yeah. Let's go on because we're running out of time. The second attempt is to try a thing to see if it can be done. Okay? To try to make a trial of, to test, and here it is. For the purpose of ascertaining his quality, what he thinks, or how he, being God, will behave. So it's best summed up is what God is doing. Okay, it's to make or a trial for the purpose of ascertaining his quality, how God thinks, or how God will behave. Now turn over real quick over to Matthew 22. I'm trying. I don't want to read through this, but I know time's getting away from us here. In Matthew 22, we're going to start at verse 15. It says, this is what. Yeah. It said, when the Pharisees, and he took counsel how they might entangle him in his talk, talking about Jesus, and they sent out unto him their disciples with the Herodians, saying, Master, we know that thou art true, and teachest the way of God in truth. Neither carest thou for any man, for thou regardest not the person of men. Tell us, therefore, what thinkest thou? Is it lawful to give tribute unto Caesar or not? But Jesus perceived their wickedness and said, Why tempt ye me, you hypocrite? Show me the tribute money. And they brought to him a penny, and he saith unto them, Who is the image and the superscription? And they said unto him, Caesar. Then he said unto them, Render unto Caesar the things which are Caesar, and unto God the things that are God. And when he heard these words, they marveled and left him and went their way. Okay, so what he's telling them, okay, he knew, he perceived what they were trying to do. Taxation back then was the big question. It was the big question that was going around. Should we pay this tax to the Romans? Are we supposed to do that? And they come to Jesus to ask him this question, trying to trap him, because they felt like they had the perfect question to get him to say something. Not only, it's going to have to be one or two answers, and we've got him any way that he turns. Because if he gives one answer, we've got him condemning the Roman rule. If he says the other way, then we've got him going against the nation of Israel. It was the perfect question, they said, because one way he would have sided with Rome, the other way he would have not been able to claim to be the Messiah, the ruler, the king of Israel, and siding with the Romans. So how he handled that was by saying, whatever is due you, you pay that. What God requires, you pay that. And what man requires, you pay that. He got out of it and they marveled. But the question that they asked, or Jesus asked them, said, why are you tempting me? And it falls back to the second one once again, and that being to put the proof, where am I at? Verse 2. To see if a thing can be done, or to ascertain his quality, what he thinks or how he's going to behave himself. He's trying to trick. He's trying to impress. He's trying to force and paint Jesus in a corner just to see how he's going to react. See, that's the reason that I said in this testing, it is the methods of God uses to do his will. It's testing why God is working in a specific manner. And that was what the test was. Trying to trick him and trap him in a corner just to see what he's going to do. Okay? Just to see if there's a way that we can trap God and put him in this corner. Just to see how he's going to behave. It's to test him to see how and what he's going to do. Let's go real quick over to the second one. That's over to Acts 5:9, and then we're going to get real quick over into, man, time is flying. Acts 5:9, we'll hit it real quick. Acts 5:9, and basically what it is, 5:9, and we know this is the story about Ananias and Sapphira, and they agreed. I'll summarize to just keep from reading all of this. They decided that they was going to sell the land and going to bring the full price. They said bring the full price and give it to the church. But what they did was they sold the land, but they only brought a part of the money in and told all of the church and told the apostles that they was giving it all. Okay, they lied. And so when they brought it to it, they come in, they brought Ananias in first and asked him, did you sell it for such and such a price? He said, yes. And he said, was this not in your possession? Did you not have full disclosure? Could you not have done whatever that you wanted to with this money? He said, yes. And he said, then why have you lied? Why have you tempted the Holy Spirit? And we find that over in verse 9. It says, then Peter said unto him, How is it that you agreed together to tempt the Spirit of the Lord? Behold, the feet of them which buried your husband are at the door, and shall carry thee away. He's talking about Sapphira. Why tempt you the Lord? And it's like the Holy Spirit had already been working on them and trying to get them to see and understand what they're doing. But they went against that and tried to see in this definition if a thing could be done, okay, if a thing could be done, and to see what God would do. They just more or less just lied to God about the thing, just to see if it was possible to get away with this, okay? And there's a lot of times that we do the same thing. There's a lot of times when we get to looking at how that we act. You know, there's certain things that we know that we try to get away with, amen? We try to get away with it. Okay, so let's move on real quick. It's how do we willingly or unwillingly today tempt God? You know, we talked about this, but there's one question that I put down is been one that me and Gene tried my little experience. Right down the road one time, going through the middle of downtown Cleveland, I just blurted out, God, if you love me, let all the lights be green. Okay? Let all the lights be green. Okay? And one by one, man, I mean, I was hitting them all. And I was like, golly, the last one, I make them throw a yellow, you know. But I made every light it was green. And I felt, man, so elated. I mean, God did that. And without a doubt, I still felt like God did that just to show his love for me. Okay? Was I tempting God? Yes. I feel like I was tempting him. I feel like I was tempting God. Even on the two. Even on either one of them. I was tempting him by, where they at? To put to proof his character and his power. Oh, most certainly. You know, God don't have to let me get all green lights every time that I feel a little insecure about him loving me. You know, I should take him at his word. I've got the Bible that tells me he loves me without question, beyond my even thoughts and dreams. I know God loves me, so why in the world should I put God to a test? God, if you love me, let all the lights be green. What's it going to be the next time? God, let all the lights be red? You know, God, if you really love me, let Donna give me biscuits and gravy and fried chicken tonight, you know? Okay, it's a test. Okay, it's a test. We're getting into the fleece. Golly. Okay, we're getting into the fleece. All right. Where we at? Where we at? I think we're going to have to just go on and jump in. Everybody turn over to Judges 6. Let me ask you one more while you turn it. You think it is tempting God to ask him to help you pass a test that you've never even studied for? Okay? I mean, you've never even broke the book. You know, I still dream about taking tests in school. Still. You know, I took a test the other day. I dreamed that I was taking a test at school. You know, and I knew I wasn't ready for it. And I knew there was no way that I could ever pass this test. Why? Here I am, 58 years old, still at Bradley High School, not knowing what I'm going to do about this test. Don't figure. Don't figure. Judges chapter 6. Judges chapter 6. Let me put it to you this way, okay? I'm going to highlight real quick a few of the bullet points so we'll get a flavor about Gideon. Everybody read about Gideon? Amen. Everybody knows who Gideon is, all right? Israel had disobeyed God, okay? And God had allowed the Midianites to come in, and they had compassed the land. The Bible said it was like grasshoppers taking over the field. I mean, there was thousands upon thousands of them. It drove the people up into caves and hideouts. And every time they tried to plant crops, they would come out and they would destroy all the crops before that they was even brought up and ready to be harvested. And you know, it forced the people to just flee for their life and hide out in little places. Okay? Then the angel of the Lord come to Gideon and he said, he basically said, "Hail, thou mighty man of valor." Now, you know, why this is so funny is Gideon was hiding and was threshing wheat in a wine press. he was hiding from the Midianites, trying to thresh out just a little bit of wheat for him and his family, but he was hiding like everybody else. So the angel come to him and said, "Help, thou mighty man of valor." And Gideon probably thought, "Who are you talking about? He can't be me." He told him, said, "I'm going to use you to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Midianites." And he tells him, basically said, "Listen, I'm the least in the family. Man, you should pick anybody else beside me. I'm not going to do it. I can't do it." And he says, "I've chosen you. I've chosen you." And Gideon put God to the test 3 times. Here's the first test that you missed. We know about the fleece, right? We know about the fleece. Here's the first test that we find. I believe it's in the first part of chapter 6. He says, if you're really going to be with me, if you're really talking to me right now, if you're really who you say you are, you stay here. I'm going to go fix you a meal, and then I'll come back, and we'll sacrifice together. And he says, I'm staying right here. Do you figure this? I mean, it ain't like he went in there and popped a TV dinner in the microwave. I mean, he went and prepared a goat. He went and made bread. I mean, no telling how long that he was gone. You think about it, Shelley. You would have to go out and get one of your goats and come on, you do it for God, wouldn't you? Man, I know you love your goats. You sit and shake your head. You're tempting God, Shelley. You're tempting God, But it took some time to do this, okay? The man waited on him to come back, okay? And what he did, he told him to put it down, pour the broth out, and the Bible says he stretched out his rod, I think it was, and he consumed it up in a fire. Gideon knew that God had indeed spoken to him. That was test number 1, okay? That night, the same night, God told him to go to his father's house, go up on the high places, tear down all the altars, take your father's favorite bull, take it up there on that altar, cut it up, and sacrifice it. Okay? Use the wood for their idol worship and all that they got up on the high place for worshiping Baal. Tear it all down, build a fire, and kill your daddy's favorite bull. Yeah, God, I'd love to do that. He did. He did. He took 10 of his men. The Bible says he took 10 of his men up on the hill. He probably took him half the night to do it. What happens the next morning? All the people go up there. The place is tore down. The 10 men squealed him out and said it was Gideon. They go to Gideon's house. They bang on the door. They tell his dad. He said, "Bring out Gideon. We're going to kill him for what he did." And the dad saved him by saying, You're going to kill this man for your God, Baal." Right? Then if Baal is a true God that you're worshiping, let him take care of himself. Let him take care of himself. It ain't up to you to defend a God if he's to you. Let your God defend himself. And so his dad spared him, okay? And then we read over just a few verses over, and I'm real close to the places, okay? Verse 33, and the Midianites and the Amalekites, along with the others, they joined forces going to fight against Israel. And in verse 36, is where we get. Is God then told him, listen, I'm going to save Israel with your hand. Okay? I'm going to save Israel with your hand. It's important that you get this. God had already told Gideon, I'm going to save Israel by your hand. Get that. He had already told him what he was going to do. It's important you get that. Okay? Alright. So then here we get to verse 36. And this is the test. And Gideon told God, he said, if you're really going to be with me, if you're really going to be with me, and I want the place to be wet, and I want the ground to be dry. What happens when it gets up? Does it happen? Yes, we know that it does. We know that it does. The fleece was wet and the ground was dry. Okay? So Gideon knew that what he was fixing to do was really liable to make God angry, because he told me, he said, listen, I'm going to ask you something, God, but don't get mad, don't get angry at me. I want you to reverse it. Now I want the fleece to be dry and the ground wet. And he wanted to be sure. Now here is my question. If Gideon can do it, open for discussion. If Gideon can do it, should we do the same thing today? If Gideon, and God granted his request, right? Why did God grant his request?
Because he was going to use him he was going to use him to deliver the people.
Yeah. God had already told him. That's reading 9:4. God had already told him. So should we do it, or can we do it today? Is it tempting God if we do it today? This is slippery. I mean, this is real close right here. We're all over it. We're all over. Is it okay to do it?
I would say no.
He said, I don't think it depends on the circumstances.
I would say no. We're supposed to walk. I think it's all to do with intent.
See, that's right. I knew we was going to get close on this. We might be here.
I think personally that he was trying to confirm that he was doing the right thing.
Wait a minute. Give me a microphone.
No.
Yes. Say it. Say it. What did you say? Stand up and say it real loud, or I'm going to make you talk my phone.
I feel like that Gideon was just trying to confirm that he was doing the right thing. Just to make sure, kind of like trying the spirit. Is it the right thing to do? Am I really doing the right thing? That's what I see.
So did everybody hear what she said? Gideon wanted confirmation that he was doing the right thing. Okay, Gideon wanted confirmation that he was doing the right thing. Okay, we're all around this, and this is good. This is what I hope we would eventually get to. But it's took me a long time. This is a lot longer. I told you it took on 2 pages to go on another page today. So what do we think? Let's talk about this more. Is it okay to do it? Under what conditions?
Mark, I think it's one thing to want to be sure of God's will. But if you're saying, God, if you do this for me, I'll do this for you, you're wrong.
Yeah.
Because the fact is, God doesn't have to do anything else for me.
Right.
But I serve Him because I love Him. I serve Him because of what He's already done for me.
Amen. Amen.
And when we put those limits, I mean, I've heard people say, well, if God does this for me, I'll get back in church.
Yeah.
No, you won't.
No.
You won't.
Yeah.
Or, God, if you'll do this for me, I'll serve you. I'll get in here and I'll work in the church. No, you won't.
Yeah.
You'll do it because you love it.
Amen.
And if you're seeking anything else,
Yeah.
you're tempting God.
Amen. That's good.
Confirmation, that's one thing. But I'm like Michael, I think you're saying, well, if you do this for me, then I'll do this for you. Kind of like Gary does me. You do this for me.
She could have said it without bringing you in. Like Gary said, she's tempting me.
But I'm just saying, I'm with Michael though. Look at what the difference between bargaining. You don't bargain with God.
No.
He's God.
He's
You
right.
can't bargain with God.
Mark, I can say, when I've had Sonia in the studio,
Oh, now listen.
I have said, Lord, if you'll get me through this, I'll serve you.
We're all around it, and we all are pretty much agreeing. Okay. That's what I hope that somebody would get. If he was wrong in asking, God would not have revealed it. That was my question. Why did God answer him? If he was wrong, if he was really in the wrong by doing that, then God most certainly would not have answered. He would have said, you know, you're out of line here, you know. Yeah. Okay. Right. Right. All right, let's sum it up, okay? The two areas that we don't question or should not question God in. Number one is who God is. That's his authority and power. And what God does. And that is how he runs his own world and universe. And how he exercises his sovereign will in our lives. We might not like his methods. Okay? We can't compete. Even though that we might have done it a different way, we can't say that God's not good in his methods. Okay? That's what he's talking about. That's the two areas that we don't need to question God. You know, is his power and his authority over us, and the methods how he operates and how he chooses to lead us, just like he did with the children of Israel, how they chided and how they griped about his provision. That was what that he don't. But if we are going to throw out our fleece, then like it's been talked about here, and I'm trying to wrap this up real quick. Okay. Gideon already knew, okay? Gideon already knew what God had told him. I'm going to deliver Israel by you. He told him that a number of times. He told him, you know, if you're who you are, stay here. Test number one. And, you know, I'm going to test you again. If it's really true, let me throw this fleece out. Okay? All right. I'm going to have to. I want you, to know. Okay? I want you to know that I am with you. Okay, the test, if we're going to use a fleece like that, then we need to keep it in the context that Gideon used it, and it's not to, how can I word it? It's not to determine God's will. It's to confirm what God's will has already told you. That's the best way to say it. Tempting God. God, if you, if a guy comes by in the next 10 minutes wanting to buy my house, then I know you want me to sell it. Okay? Now that's tempting God. That's tempting God. But if God has already, put something on your heart, and you just want to make for sure, we always say, that God will open doors for you. God, and it is hard to know God's will for your life. So what we do, we rattle doors. Go to that door and check it. That's the difference between active faith and passive faith. We learn the kingdom men's learning about that. Okay? So, I think we about got it. Has anybody else got anything before we close up? And it's been, I like doing this. Anybody want to keep doing this for a while? Anybody like it? I tell you, I'm about 25% of the people. Yes. That's it. That's accepted by that God is the author. God will not change. And we just have to accept the fact. And let me tell you what, your ways are not better than God's ways. Your ways are not higher than God's ways. God's got the ultimate authority over us. And when we align our will, kingdom men, read the next one. It's coming up. When we align our will to God's will, amazing things will start happening to you and your family and everything underneath it. Okay? And we've got to recognize God's presence in our life. Anybody else before we dismiss? I got one kid ready to go home. That's it. The preacher knows when it's time to close. All right, let's get our kids up here. We'll do the praise verse. Come on. You're going to get up there. You're going to get up there. There we go. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, and all that's within me. Bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, and forget not all his benefits. Thank you for your patience.